here on C-SPAN.
Now from Belgrade, Yugoslavia, Serbian news from the state-run Radio Television Serbia. This newscast was recorded at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time and translated here at C-SPAN in Washington, D.C. It's 40 minutes.
You're watching primetime news of Radio Television Serbia. Good evening. President of the Republic, Slobodan Milošević, received the Hungarian Workers' Party President Gyula Tilmer. Gyula Tilmer condemned the aggression of NATO on Yugoslavia and conveyed to President Milošević all of the expressions of support and solidarity of the members of his party to the people and the leadership of Yugoslavia. He said that there are many citizens of Hungary against this mindless war. And he also spoke to Mr. Milošević about the opposition of his party against this irresponsible behavior and the attempts that Hungary, until recently not a member of NATO, become involved in this conflict. President Milošević said, "We appreciate the attitude of the Hungarian Workers' Party and the solidarity with our people in these days of criminal attacks of our country. This war imposed upon Yugoslavia is an evil against all our citizens, against the entire nation and all of the ethnic communities within Yugoslavia. The human victims and the destruction of civilian objects in Vojvodina is a blow against..."
Tomorrow morning on our companion network, C-SPAN 2, you can see live coverage of NATO's daily news briefing on the military operation in Yugoslavia. That's at 9 a.m. Eastern, again on C-SPAN 2.
With full cooperation and confidence. This is why it would be most tragic mistake if Hungary allows itself to be used as means of this fascist alliance in its plans against Yugoslavia, stressed President Milošević. The Hungarian minority in Yugoslavia is a bridge between our countries, and it's a factor of significance for furthering of our friendly relations, stated the President of the Republic in today's discussion with the Workers' Party representative from Hungary. The federal government stated that, pursuant to the joint declaration with the government of the Republic of Serbia, all security forces in Kosovo stopped their anti-terrorist actions. Kosovo is at peace. Pursuant to the situation and based on the meeting between President Milošević and Dr. Ibrahim Rugova, the process of the return of the people who have been displaced from Kosovo, primarily Albanians of nationality, has begun. Many of the media of the world still continue to create a fake image of the humanitarian catastrophe. Immediately when we have stabilization of the situation, we have a barbaric attack again on Pristina and many other civilian objects in Kosovo and Metohija. This makes it very clear that NATO wants to harm civilians and stop the process of dialogue between the Serbs, Albanians, and many other members of other ethnic groups. The evil action of NATO is essentially against all of those who want to live together in harmony and mutual understanding. The federal government repeats its appeal to citizens not to leave the country and to work together and fight together against the bombs that kill regardless of ethnicity. They destroy so much that we have created over the past 40 years of living together. The President of the Republic's Assembly of Serbia, Srđa Božović, and the President of the Political Citizens Council, Ljubiša Ristić, met today with the Greek representatives of the Greek Parliament, headed by the President of the Coalition of the Left and Progress of Greece, Nikos Konstantinopoulos. They condemned together the NATO aggression against our country. They energetically declared that this bombing should be stopped and all of this destruction of civilian objects, of infrastructural objects in Yugoslavia. It was also stated that this undeclared war against Yugoslavia violates all international conventions regarding war and international law. And this is an evil against humanity that's counter to the UN Charter, to the documents of OSCE and international law. Warning that NATO bombs have caused war, that is a war against Europe and its European unification. These bombs are destroying the bridges on Danube. These are bombs that also fall on European bridges and European cities. NATO criminals continued last night their missile attacks of Yugoslav cities. The greatest destruction was in the little town of Ćuprija. It's a target of these executioners, and again you have the downtown of a small town. The center of Shupria was hit last night by the missiles of the NATO criminals. There were many bombs from airplanes, and the explosions broke the windows on many buildings. Many roofs were damaged, as well as doors of many private apartments and houses. The real results of the evil action of the NATO alliance against Shupria could be seen this morning. The bombs of these criminals destroyed many civilian objects in the downtown area. The aggressors hit a complete apartment complex. It's really strange that despite this attack, nobody was killed. The damage is huge, also on the medical high school as well as the sport hall. The building of the electric power company is completely destroyed. The main square, shops, restaurants have been left without windows and doors. The evil fascist alliance, cowardly, in the dawn of the last night, around 4 o'clock in the morning, destroyed the sport recreational facility Tornik, which is part of a larger institute called Zlatibor. This is an object that's actually a children's hostel, and they threw their murderous bombs, but this is an object primarily for accommodation of children. Within this facility, there was also a medical unit, a clinic, that was very clearly marked with a red cross. According to the first information that we have from our teams for response, this evil attack of the fascist armada killed 3 civilians. At 4 o'clock this morning, this missile, obviously intended for the monument to the workers' battalion on Kadinjača, ended up in this field. The attack on the heroic Kadinjača shows that NATO criminals are afraid even of the dead proletariat. During the last night, there were many other evil missiles that caused a lot of human losses and huge material damage. After the last night's attack, which is a second attack on Bogutovac, close to Kraljevo, the grammar school of Đura Jakšić is no more. We only have a burning rubble with charred books, children's notepads, and teaching tools that have been destroyed. For the 84 grammar school kids of Bogutovac, Proplenica, Lopatovac, Toplinica, and Brešnik, there'll be only memories of this beloved school and their children's games. There were 2 attacks with this airplane force of 20 missiles. Obviously, 2 of them were intended for the children of this place. In last night's attack, there was a heavy damage to many households, and people are now trying to pull out of them whatever they have created for so many decades, and that now this NATO fascists destroyed as potentially military targets. The Beopetrol fuel storage that was serving only the farmers' needs for sowing and harvest is also practically gone. There are only piles of metal and craters of the murderous bombs. The railroad station was also damaged, which has been during the day somewhat repaired, that can be partially used for communication and transportation. Also, the Ibar road has been somewhat repaired. The evil powers of NATO pact, for the 3rd time, has attacked the chemical factory Milan Blagojević. The greatest damage, according to our first estimate, is in the energy plant. Fortunately, there were no human losses, and the fire was localized. In the close-by village in Krstovac, about 50 meters away from the local cemetery, there were 3 missiles. More than 50 houses are uninhabitable because of this explosion, and many of them have broken windows and roofs. Last night, only a few days after the attack of Gračanica, these bastards of civilization attacked one more Serbian holy site. 2 missiles fell close to the ancient Žiča monastery. God himself prevented the explosion of these missiles. We can see the traces of Hitler's bombardment from 1941, and now at the threshold of the 21st century, the criminals of NATO alliance, commanded by a new Adolf, are throwing again their missiles and bombs. The monastery in which Holy Sava crowned the first Serbian king, Stefan Prvovenčani, 270 years before Columbus' discovery of America. This monastery has to be afraid of new destruction now. The center of Belgrade last night was again target of rocket attacks. Half an hour before midnight, a missile hit a building in Nemanja Street. They also damaged the special hospital Holy Sava, disturbing the seriously ill, mostly immobile patients. This is what was recorded immediately after the attack. According to unofficial information, there was a missile from an airplane above this building last night. This is unofficial information, but we came to the site and there were all of the response teams, the firefighters, the first aid teams, and all of the other authorized teams. As you can see, the firefighters reacted very fast. There is no fire, but you can see a lot of material debris, a lot of glass broken in front of the building. It's clear that the explosion destroyed almost all of the windows on this building of Nemanja Street. Of course, we had a lot of colleagues that came here, both our own journalists and many foreign journalists that came to see one more of these evil acts of the aggressor. And you can see the rubble and the huge quantity of glass, broken glass. There was a smoke from the explosion, very thick smoke that at one point completely covered almost the entire Nemanja Street, here near the intersection of Kniaz Miloš Street. This monstrosity of last night's attack of the aggressors is shown by the fact that only 100 meters away from this building we have the special hospital Sveti Sava, Holy Sava. Very close to this object you can also see apartment buildings to my left. These are apartment buildings in the very center of town. Let us just add that behind this building, very close to it, around 20 meters behind, there is the famous Church of the Assumption. That's once again a proof that the aggressor is not choosing its targets and they are ready to attack not only civilian, but even holy sites. Half an hour before midnight, given the fact that this was a street right in the middle of town, there were so many people around this particular building, many citizens of Belgrade. The evil alliance bombed once again last night Kragujevac and Sremska Mitrovica. The extent to which Americans are not familiar with this murderous attack of NATO and their commanders lead against Yugoslavia is shown by a poll that was conducted these days by the Washington Fox News TV. Half of the surveyed Americans don't have any idea which country is being bombed. One out of 10, thinks that the US is at war with Albania. Of those that support the war, 2/3 don't know which nation is being bombed. How much do ordinary Americans know of this phase of the bloody foreign policy of their country is shown by the following. 1/4 of the surveyed believe that Kosovo is in the Middle East, connected somehow with Iraq. This is an image that the world has to see. The world that doesn't know our country and these people. This is how Belgrade lives, between the sounds of the sirens that announce the air attacks. This is not London or Brussels or Bonn or Rome or Paris. This is Belgrade. Belgrade today. Belgrade on the 8th of April, 1999. Trust us, this is the heart of the Balkans, the heart of a very proud Yugoslavia. This is the main Belgrade street, Knez Mihailova. Thousands of people simply continue to live in a normal fashion. Even today when we are attacked with this rain of murderous missiles, courageous and very proud people we are. Belgradians are not gonna miss the first morning sun of the spring, which they always enjoyed in walking and drinking some coffee. These little kids want new toys, and they're standing here by the shop window hoping that Mama will give it to them. You can see that they're courageous and persistent, even with birth. On the eve of the greatest holiday of the Christians, Easter, Belgrade is preparing to celebrate Easter in a family fashion. This Easter is not going to be different, nor will any Easter be different in the future, because we cannot forget our roots and our customs. This is a small country, but today it's the most courageous country in the world. The millions of people in this country have only one message. Let us live in peace. Let us breathe freely. Let them do their own work and leave us alone. Peace and only peace to everyone. The Minister of Internal Affairs of Serbia, Vlajko Stojiljković, visited the firefighters' brigade of Belgrade and stated that everything will be done to defend the country, the sovereignty and the people from the aggressor attack of NATO. The Minister of Internal Affairs of Serbia, Vlajko Stojiljković, visited the firefighting brigade of Belgrade that has been working from the beginning of the aggression, from night to night, trying to prevent even stronger consequences. He addressed the brigade that was on duty, stating the following: our firefighters in Belgrade, in Pristina, Niš, Čačak, Pančevo, in Novi Sad, and in many other settlements and towns that have been unjustifiably and furiously attacked by this aggressor, have shown great capacity, self-sacrifice, expertise, dedication, and willingness to risk even their own lives in order to make the consequences of these horrible attacks of the aggressors lesser, so that we can have less in terms of material consequences for our country. I thank you all for everything you've done, for all of the risks you've undertaken, and I hope that you will do this in the future as well. The commander of the armed forces of France, General Jean-Pierre Kelch, stated, according to Reuters, that NATO aggressors decided to destroy all facilities of the radio television Serbia, that this will be one of their upcoming priorities. At the press conference, he stated verbatim, "We consider them extremely dangerous. The media spreading Serbian opinion will destroy this network of disinformation." General Kelch, who can only be an embarrassment to his French people and their armed forces, he's quite right. It is of course true that TV Serbia spreads Serbian opinion because we are authentic representatives of our people and its opinion. We really want to speak the truth about this evil aggression against our country. But this destructive, mad blood prevents reason. The only thing that this pitiful example of the French people can say was that they will destroy this network of lies. The radio television Serbia makes Serbian people only stronger, and Serbian opinion only strongly voiced. Nobody and no bombs can change this. It's clear that this maniacal trash doesn't understand that only Serbs can speak of the authentic Serbian attitude. This is only truth and no lies. Does he, after all the crimes committed against our people, think that Serbian citizens do not know what's the truth and what are lies, what is ours and what is foreign? Who are the enemies that are bombing us day and night? However, this wretch and this French general had the opportunity, if he had wanted, to learn during the past 2 weeks of these merciless attacks on Serbia that the Serbian opinion cannot be destroyed, no matter how many missiles from the stockpiles of the murderous weapons of this planet are thrown. We, the journalists and all of the employees of Radio Television Serbia, with 10,000 employees, we address NATO and all of the leaders of the countries members of NATO. However, primarily to all the people of the world, we know that we are your future target. We know that you have to kill our relay stations and the buildings that we have built with great efforts over the past 50 years. This evil army is destroying our country, our citizens, destroying our bridges, hospitals and schools. We know that we are a target. We've known it for a while. We heard it from the General Jean-Pierre Kelch, who stated today that one of the first priorities in the upcoming campaign of bombing will be to destroy all of the objects of the radio television Yugoslavia. He also gave the reason why this should be done. We consider them extremely dangerous means that spread Serbian opinion. We will destroy this network of false information, he stated at the press conference in Paris. Immediately, CNN gave its own response. They appealed to NATO to destroy Radio Television Serbia. The correspondent of CNN, Alessio Vinci, stated today that the TV buildings in Belgrade have fewer people these days than last week, perhaps. So the damage wouldn't be that great, or there would be less dead people. You say that we are spreading lies and that we are organizers of anti-NATO opinion amongst our people. We are not throwing bombs on our children. We don't have B-52s, carriers, Iljev-16. There is no need to explain to anyone in our country who brings death and destruction, because our citizens know very well who sends the bombs. We only regularly and professionally convey the pain and anger of our people. We are talking about the heroic struggle of our citizens. And we talk about the civilian destruction of objects and loss of life. We explain that the goal of this mad destructive campaign is an occupation of our country. Your leaders and generals don't like it when we show these pictures of a meeting between the president of Yugoslavia, Slobodan Milosevic, and the leader of the Albanians from Kosovo, Dr. Ibrahim Rugova, because you do not like an agreement between Serbs and Albanians. You do not want peace and harmony here. You want war until your troops can occupy our territory and stay here forever. You don't like it when the media in your countries express certain opinions that there are 100,000 people in the stadium in Pristina waiting execution, and we show that the stadium is empty. You don't like it when we show that our army has downed your invisible plane, that we have caught your soldiers on our territory. You say that we are not talking about the exodus of the Albanian people from Kosovo and their troubles in Albania. Our country is at war. We are a television station of Radio Serbia, and we will report to our citizens on what is happening. We do not have teams in Albania, and Albania is one of the countries that is one of the great causes of our trouble, because they want, together with separatists and terrorists, to expand at the expense of our country. We know that thousands of people from Albania and Kosovo have fled out of fear of your NATO bombs. And we know that CNN manipulates with hundreds of them, together with Christiana Amanpour, in one beautifully directed show, a show that has been paid by Soros. We have appealed, and we have sent our appeals through the state, and the refugees are returning. And the Kosovo Albanians that see in Yugoslavia their fatherland are a lot more than those that are manipulated by CNN. We know about all of the manipulations by the countries that are NATO members. We know about the footage by, according to you, an unknown Albanian, according to which there was a massacre of 100 Albanians. Everybody can see that these are victims of your NATO bombing. Instead of truth, you're giving us Madeleine Albright, who, in order to ingratiate herself to what she calls the last communist bastion of Europe, appears in a red suit with a star-shaped pin and addresses us in Serbian language. When even this burlesque fails, with the greatest point man of the alliance, you're sending us flyers telling us that NATO loves us and has nothing against our people. We know a lot, we're not hiding anything before our people or the world. That's why you have to silence us. We know that there is not a single day that you don't mention us by press people of NATO, Pentagon, or the White House. We do not have missiles or helicopters that murder people. We only have the words and the truth. And you gentlemen from NATO, from Washington, Brussels, Bonn, who have tried to go into this mad adventure to bomb the people of a sovereign country in Europe just because they don't want to succumb. This is what hurts you the most. This is why your boss Solana sent to the executioner Clark to shoot at the truth at the Radio Television Serbia. You couldn't have given us a greater compliment and recognition. This is the best thing we've gotten from you for the past 2 weeks. Let him shoot. We are waiting for him. We are telling you we are at Takovska 10, Takovska 10 Street. I'm not going to give you the latitude and the longitude. They can find it for themselves. There are several thousands of us, and we're working here every day. Even to the journalists, we're giving services to journalists from your countries. In our bureaus, production studios, transmission centers, days and nights we spend. We know that you want to kill best at night, from distance. To your offer from Brussels that you may spare us if we give you 6 hours of our program time for the so-called Western media, we respond without asking our country. We are ready to give you these 6 hours that you're demanding if you secure for us the same length for program time on the TV stations of the countries that are members of NATO as well as France. Maybe we would only need 6 minutes for your 6 hours. Official Moscow condemned again the aggression of NATO against the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, asking for an immediate stop to the bombing and for a new initiative for a diplomatic solution of this crisis. The latest bombing of Yugoslavia was called by President Yeltsin absence of elementary humanity and ethics. NATO is saying that they're targeting only military targets, but we can see that the public opinion around the world is against the unscrupulous behavior of NATO. Russia stays on the position that the problem on Kosovo and Metohija has and must be resolved only in political means, and they're preparing a new initiative. President Yeltsin stated this after today's meeting with Marshal Sergeyevim. Moscow insists on a ministerial meeting of the 8th and especially stresses, as President Yeltsin adds, the peaceful initiative of President Milosevic, who has started an immediate, in the last few days, several important measures. Marshal Sergeyevich stresses that the political initiative of President Milosevic, especially in the context of the Albanian communities in Kosovo, really makes it unnecessary to have any foreign presence in Kosovo and requires a new negotiation. He spoke about the high spirit of the Yugoslav army that is fulfilling its duties. Meanwhile, it has been recorded by the Moscow television that there are 3 battleships getting ready from the Black Sea to go towards Yugoslavia. The Turkish government has confirmed that these boats would go through Bosphorus, perhaps on the 12th of April. The regulation of the Yugoslav crisis was also a topic of a discussion between the Foreign Minister of Russia, Igor Ivanov, and the President of OSCE, Knut Vollebæk. It was decided that the bombing has to stop immediately, but if NATO continues with military actions, there must be immediate measures on highest level. Igor Ivanov stressed that after the aggression of Yugoslavia, the peace forces of OSCE have no place in Kosovo, given their debacle prior to these events. The first duty, as he stressed, was to stop bombing and begin again negotiations. And OSCE, within the European framework, can have a place and a role to play. The Minister of Defense of Russia, Marshal Igor Sergeyev, stressed that the Yugoslav army is continued at ready and capable of defense. NATO is inflicting great civilian damages, but they have no effect whatsoever on the military power of Yugoslavia. Today he met President Yeltsin, and after the meeting they said that NATO has to stop the aggression immediately. We have to go towards political resolution. If NATO goes towards ground troops, this conflict is certainly going to spread beyond Yugoslavia to neighboring countries. Marshal Sergeyev confirmed once again that Russia consistently insists on political resolution of the crisis in the Balkans, and NATO attacks have to stop immediately. The Western inheritors of Satan are still silent about the 19 people that have been killed during this aggression against Yugoslavia. Atinaiki from Athens says that there are 88 NATO soldiers that have died and 32 planes and helicopters. In an article that was published on the internet, it is said that these evil people have been so enraged that they have destroyed the Alexians to the ground. 44 Americans have died, 11 Germans, 8 French, 7 British, and 18 other criminals from various ethnic groups. Calling upon information that they have received according to them from Brussels, they also say that NATO is not only afraid of the losses, but also completely enraged, especially the generals that were insisting on a different kind of approach towards this problem in Kosovo and claimed that the action from the beginning was conducted in a wrong way. The press spokesperson for NATO stated again that it's true that one plane was lost during last night's attack in Yugoslavia, most likely in Kosovo. The NATO aggressor once confirmed, obviously after several denials, that the Yugoslav anti-aircraft has downed this American spy plane. The media in Brussels reported that this is a reconnaissance plane of Hunter type, whose assignment is to spy or collect information for further air attacks. In Beijing, The press spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that China insists on the political resolution of the Kosovo problem and that the NATO aggression cannot resolve anything except worsen the situation. China stresses that the political solution has to be based on the respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Yugoslavia, as well as the preservation of the legitimate rights of all of the communities in Kosovo. In the letter from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel towards Serbia, it is said the government of Israel supports a peaceful resolution of the conflict in Kosovo and expresses its sorrow for the loss of human lives. In Moscow, again, there is a statement that the president of Yugoslavia, Slobodan Milosevic, is doing everything right, showing that Yugoslav government is for peace. Rishkov stated in a conversation with journalists that those who have kept sanity will have to use this opportunity to renew the peace. The president of the lower house of the Czech parliament, Václav Klaus, said that the mass leaving of Albanians of their homes is because of NATO. Before the NATO attack on Kosovo, there were no Albanian refugees. 4 Geneva Conventions from 1949 and 2 more protocols from 1977 have been violated. This aggression is an international crime. This was stated in China by the military experts. Pointing to the merciless attack on civilian objects, Professor Zhang said on Central Chinese television that the attack of civilians is always forbidden. This military action against Yugoslavia is a great evil. And this is violation against world peace and against all of the charters of UN, direct violation of 4 Geneva Conventions from 1949 and 2 more protocols from 1977. The British government continues with its manipulation of the people that have fled Kosovo. Today, for example, there was a new formula that deals with those people who have not left Kosovo and who have stayed in their houses. According to the propaganda machinery of the British government, they are now worried because they are hostages, imagine. We have to remind that only 2 days ago, the same kitchen served another lie that the Yugoslav army is sending Kosovars at gunpoint, and now apparently they're forcibly returning them. The head of the Foreign Office, Robin Cook, received again some kind of delegation of Kosovo Albanians, promising them that Britain will finance paper in Albanian language. All of these expenses and many other expenses will have to be explained to the British people, because this incredible war adventure is already costing London something approximately of tens of millions of pounds per day. Those 12 million British people that, according to latest official data, live under the poverty line will certainly ask, where is the money going from this budget? So Cook and his boss Blair will certainly have to answer very soon to such questions. This was a dead city when we arrived. This is the beginning of the moving witness account of the journalist from Independent under the title Pristina is a Wasteland. Robert Fisk, the journalist of Independent, witnesses about the city of Pristina as a wasteland of destroyed houses. The center of the city that was attacked by missiles only 2 years earlier is a real embarrassment for humanity. So many apartment buildings, so many houses destroyed in smallest fragments that have also killed 10 civilians. I met one old Albanian man in a dirty coat. They bombed the entire night, that's all he said. And he added that he's trying to get to Skopje in Macedonia, says this journalist. One Serbian girl in this terribly empty city said that KLA began attacking the government forces. I heard 2 shots while I was walking through the rubble of this destroyed city, says this Independent journalist. What happened in the past few days? He's walking through this rubble, and I'm leaving, and I'm walking through this Serbian settlement, and I have this incredible thought. Could it be that all of these bombs that have been thrown within the last 6 hours, could it be that this uncontrolled attack of the NATO against the Serbian civilians, some kind of getting back at the Serbs, did KLA ask that these houses be attacked? Among the dead people, there is one family, Turkish people, father and 3 children. In the post office, an Albanian and Serb people died together. One house has been destroyed, turned into dust. One wooden construction is a complete rubble next to a crater. So many traces of family life, so much refuse, as Robert Fisk says. Many other small shops were destroyed by NATO bombs, and they were property of Albanians. Not even the dead people in Albania can rest in peace. The NATO planes bombed the Orthodox cemetery, destroying more than 30 graves. Part of the cemetery ended up on the roof of a train. What were the horrors happening in Pristina over the past 2 weeks? One old man said, "We will fight. This is a dirty war." And Pristina is a proof as of last night that we all have dirty hands. This is the end of this moving eyewitness account on the front page of The Independent. In Paris, the Minister of the Internal Affairs of France criticized President Chirac for justifying this evil attack on Yugoslavia and the barrage of words against the political solution. Minister Sheverman is a leader of a group called Movement of Citizens, and he is very much against the role of America that wants, through this NATO alliance, to govern all of the crises in Europe. This is not in the interest of France. This is not in the interest of the world peace. Chirac is also being criticized by many other political progressive forces in France. The paper Figaro says that for many French, it is very painful that France has lost its free will and instead of engaging in seeking a peaceful solution, participates in a war against Serbs that are such friendly nation. This is Marie-France Garot and Pierre Gillet. Both of them were previously advisors to President Pompidou. They criticized the war against Yugoslavia as well as the hypocrisy and the lies that are followed in this war. NATO wants to govern with these operations, and the main word is by the Americans. There were many lies in Rambouillet. It was dictatorship of the Americans. They're lying to us, and they're saying that all of this bombing is humanitarian intervention. No war can be humanitarian in nature. It's always cruel. Our anti-aircraft defense units, and the NATO officers are already willing to admit that, is inflicting great damage to the enemy aviation. Now you can see from the following photographs that we received during this program from Pristina. They confirm once again that our anti-aircraft units are getting better and better. Last night our team was together with anti-aircraft units in Kosovo, and we could see with our cameras how they're working together and how they have this incredible airspace battle against the most powerful missiles of the world. The airplanes had to flee, and they couldn't throw their murderous missiles. Our anti-aircraft missiles again won the battle against such a stronger aggressor. We managed to find the complete parts of this unmanned airplane that was hit yesterday approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon. According to this little plaquette, this was produced in Israel, and we can see the identification number on it. These particular planes cannot be very easily noticed by radars, and they're used for reconnaissance, and they're used so that pilots cannot be exposed to danger. The action of defending the bridge with living shield against NATO aggression that has attacked the civilian targets in Yugoslavia has continued in Belgrade this evening. With their own bodies, people of Belgrade will defend the bridge on Brankova ulica as well as the Pančevo bridge. On the 8th of April, this evening, 7:30 at night, 16 days after NATO had begun attacking Yugoslavia because of its determination to deny its freedom on its own space and because of its decision not to let NATO soldiers come to the country, Pančevo Bridge is one of the vital communication points between Belgrade and Banat area. Pančevo is covered completely with civilian defense unprecedented so far. Pančevo people were helped by many other people from the surrounding areas. And this is an incredible living force against the iron NATO executioners. 2,000 courageous, patriotic, and not at all fearing people, Yugoslavs, are here on the bridge.
Može, promeni to zakon oček. I čerku za papu. Ima tvoj brata i tebe. Spusti ruku dole.
The citizens of Belgrade and the youth, many people from the area of culture, have decided once again, to decide Branko's bridge from this mad destruction of the NATO alliance.
Tomorrow morning on our companion network C-SPAN 2, you can see live